I think it's important to kind of think about this for a second because we are all a combination of all the styles, and we may flex a little bit into one or the other depending on the environment that we're in. And something that we don't know is what's going on behind the scenes for someone. Any of these major, personal life events could also impact how we're showing up at work, right? I'm being a little more reserved and I've got things going on. So we don't always know those things. So that's why we kind of always say it's a little bit of, you can pick up on behaviors, but you may have to have some conversation with that person to really truly understand where they're at and where they're coming from.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Lean Solutions Podcast. My name is Patrick Adams, and today I'm joined by Cindy Darnell, who is also going to be a speaker at this year's Lean Solutions Summit. Hello, Cindy.
Hi, Patrick.
Well, Cindy, why don't you take a minute and as we have people logging on from different places, why don't you just tell everyone just a little bit about your background and, just kind of where your what your history looks like, and maybe from a continuous improvements perspective, what's been your experience up to today.
Yeah, sure. So I am the director of operational excellence at a company called Element, and Element is in the TIC industry, which is testing, inspection, and certification. And I've been with Element 26 years, and I didn't start in operational excellence by any means. Most of my career was managing the customer service, kind of, I always say the front end and the back end of our process. So quoting, customer service, and then on the back end with reporting and invoicing to the customers. And probably did that about 15 years or so before I moved into an operations role. And so I was a department manager for a period of time. And that's really when my interest in lean kind of took off. We
Okay.
were launching our what we were calling our operational excellence roadmap at the time. And I was the one that raised my hand and volunteered and said, I'll be the Site 5S champion. And I knew nothing about, lean or anything like that. I just took an interest. I stuck my hand up there and said, I want to do it. And so learned from some really great lean practitioners we had working with us at that time. And yeah, moved into operational excellence officially in 2018 and got my Lean Six Sigma Green Belt in 2019. And so today, my role is really traveling around to different element laboratories in the Americas region and helping them with process improvement, running Kaizen events, value stream mapping, all of the things, right? Teaching them about lean tools. And I do a lot of training. I do lunch and learns, and we have, a lot of training materials up on our internal learning platform that I produce and create. So um, all kinds of things. But I think I'll also around the topic we're going to talk about today with DISC is last year I went through certification to become a DISC consultant, and that's really the time I started kind of seeing how it lined up with some of the things that I do in operational excellence.
Love it, love it. One of the things that you said was when you were working as the 5S champion, you worked under some really good lean practitioners. What would you say? Like, how did that impact you, having someone as a coach that was kind of helping to guide you along the way? What difference did that make in your learning journey to just have a good coach?
Oh yeah, so it's so important. And really, I was thinking about this recently. At the time, I didn't really see it as coaching. I didn't even know that's what was happening, right? It was just someone that was working with us to implement lean tools, and we had kind of, biweekly touch points, and um, we would go through my standard work, my leader standard work, and things like that. And it didn't dawn on me until, a couple of years later. It's like I was being coached. I didn't even notice that. I didn't realize that.
That's what makes a good coach, right?
Right.
Very nice. But tell us just what is DISC exactly. We'll start with that, and then I'll have some more follow-up
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, so DISC is a behavioral assessment tool, and it helps individuals kind of better understand their behavior styles, their communication styles, their preferences, their strengths, their fears, their motivations, all of those things. And it has a long history, so that's why maybe some people will be familiar with it because it was invented in the 1920s by William Marston, and kind of this four quadrant model. That's the acronym DISC. Is D is dominant, I is influencing, S is steady, and C is compliant. And that's the model that was really established back in the 20s. And I love all assessments like that, whether it's Myers-Briggs, DISC. Now they're the last few years has been Clifton Strengths, Strengths Finders, all of those things. I love any assessment. I love being able to kind of reflect and learn about myself so that I can grow and develop. And I think it's so interesting to learn about others too, and how you know how do people tick.
Yeah, so yeah, that I guess that is my next question is why would something like this be important? Like whether someone's using DISC or Strength Finders or whatever it is, why are these personality assessments important, and what impact can they have on a leader's journey? In helping to get the results that they're looking for. Like what high level, what would you say?
Yeah, so I think it's important to make sure that we are self-aware, and if our self-perception is distorted, then our attempt to collaborate with others or communicate is going to be misguided. And uh, gosh, we change in different periods of our lives, and so it's important to kind of assess, as certain milestones or periodically to see, have we worked on, maybe our weaknesses and making sure those aren't becoming blind spots. Are we tapping into our true strengths? That for me has been huge in my career, learning that yes, I do have weaknesses, but I don't necessarily need to turn those weaknesses into strengths. I have strengths that I can lean into, that I bring to the table, and so does everyone else. And just it helps with so many things, but just establishing relationships and communicating, and not just in the work world, right? So at home, at church, at school, building relationships is really the foundation for everyone's success.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I wonder, like practically, can you break this down for us and maybe even give us an example of where you've seen this be effective in either like a coaching relationship or a leader to direct report relationship? Like specifically, how have you seen DISC being used where someone understands utilizes DISC to understand personality and behaviors, and then they use that to improve how they're coaching or having conversations, how they're driving change with their team members. How do they use it exactly?
Yeah, so I think it's key to hone in on the communication preferences for each style, and also the fears that each style has, because when those fears are triggered, they're going to lean more into their natural personality. Under stressful situations, for example, they're going to lean harder into kind of their natural tendencies. And so I mean, I can only speak from, I guess my experiences, right? I
Right.
had a peer that was, someone that was very challenging for me to work with. And turns out, looking back, they were very much a D, a dominant style person. And um, it wasn't until I really learned about DISC and the different styles of behaviors that I was able to kind of step back and adjust my approach because, to me, I'm an I didn't say that yet, but I'm a high I person. And, I like to socialize. I like, to be happy. I'm very positive, very, everything is, the glass is half full type of person, very optimistic. And D styles are a lot more direct to the point, focused on results. And So we would kind of butt heads a lot because that person would just be very, direct to the point, bold, kind of cut me off in meetings sometimes or speak over me. And I just always left meetings with that person just thinking, what am I doing? How can I turn this around? And I don't know if that person felt that way about me, but for me, I just kept thinking, I never leave these meetings feeling good or feeling
Mhm.
that we're on the same page. And I just felt, how can I kind of turn that around? And so now that I have learned a lot about disc and the different styles, it's like, okay, I just need to get to the point with that person. They are fast-paced worker. They want, what's in it for me? What's the outcome? Focus on results, get to the point and move on. And so I've been able to change my approach with that person. And I don't know if they feel better about the outcome, but I certainly do. I don't, stress or fret about it anymore about how the meeting went because I know I've delivered more what they're looking for from that conversation. And so I think that's an example of how you can just kind of learn maybe how to better approach so the communication, the conversation goes well, and you can walk away feeling like, okay, we're on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that example. What a great example, because I think all of us probably know people that are high Ds, and we can identify that person pretty easily if we think about your story that you just gave. And I love how you change your approach, instead of trying to maybe walk through all the details or draw things out a little bit longer. You shorten things up. You went straight to the point, and the results of that were a much better outcome for that communication. Now, obviously, that high D person should also, if they know that you're an I, they should also be changing their communication style and
Right.
their approach toward you to help make that relationship and that communication better as well. And if the two of you know each other's, whether you're a D or an I, and you know how to kind of adjust your style to meet that, what a better communication pattern that you would have between each other, right?
Yeah, and I want to make sure it's clear, there's no good or bad style, we are and
Yeah,
actually everyone is a blend of all four styles. It's just maybe we're stronger in one or two of them than others. And we need all types to make the world go round, right? We need those D folks. I always use this example, when it's kind of a group setting and everyone's like, well, let's go to lunch. Where are we going for lunch? What do we want? Oh, I don't know, maybe this. The D's are going to be like, okay, let's go. We're going to go get pizza, right? Like they're very decisive, and we need that. Otherwise, we would spend half of our lunchtime, trying to figure out what we're going to have for lunch. But
exactly.
we need them all. We need all types.
So true. That I'm glad that you said that, because that is so true. Because sometimes we can put someone that's a different style than we are. We can maybe put them in a different light. And to your point, there's a reason why everyone has the different personality styles that they have. And in a team environment, we want diversified thinking. We want diversified
Yes.
approaches, because that will get us to a better outcome much quicker versus can you imagine having uh, five, let's just say, like, engineers in a room, all trying to solve a problem and probably butting heads a little bit because they all have the exact same approach, the exact same thinking process. You bring someone in from the outside who is maybe has this fresh set of eyes, and they don't think the same way that an engineer thinks. They might spark some different ideas or some different uh,
Mhm.
different conversations around that same topic that the engineers didn't even think of. Cindy, have you ever misunderstood someone's behavior style? Like, maybe thought they were a D, and realistically they came out to be an I, or something like that. I mean, what have you ever had that happen? And if so, like, what exactly happened?
Yeah, of course. I think it's important to kind of think about this for a second because we are all a combination of all the styles, and we may flex a little bit into one or the other depending on the environment that we're in. And something that we don't know is what's going on behind the scenes for someone. So anytime someone's going through, a major life event, a divorce, relocating their home, birth of a child, any of these major, personal life events could also impact how we're showing up at work, right? But we don't always know that. Those are things behind the scenes that we don't know. And so those may impact, if I'm an I, but I've got something going on at home, I may show up at work more like an S or a C because I'm being a little more reserved and I've got things going on. And so we don't always know those things. So that's why we kind of always say it's a little bit of you can pick up on behaviors, but you may have to have some conversation with that person to really truly understand where they're at and where they're coming from. And so it's not, always, that's why we say it's not just put someone in a box and close the lid and that's their label, so to speak. Because certainly things can impact how we're showing up at work, and how we display, our behaviors for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think, yeah, I think it's important that we pay attention to that. And if we realize that we've maybe misunderstood someone's behavior style, then just make the adjustment. It's not a big deal. Just obviously, if you want certain outcomes from that relationship or that communication, then you want to present or enter that conversation in the best way possible. So no big deal. Just shift your approach and look for the next conversation to be a little bit more intentional in that way. So I think
Right.
that's a great call out. What about like have you ever seen anybody that changed their approach specifically, or maybe even called out like, oh, I can see that you're an I, or like, like, and they maybe they didn't call it out that way. I don't know if that would be positive, good or not, uh, but have you ever seen that where someone actually like changed the way they were approaching a situation, or maybe even like, oh, I know so and so is going to be in this meeting, so I'm gonna set this up a little different, or I'm gonna come at this from a different angle. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about my own experience. So, I talked earlier about I work at Element and it's in the testing industry, and so I work with a lot of engineers, mechanical engineers, PhD level chemists, failure analysts, very highly technical, highly skilled people. And I'm an I. And so I am polar opposite of that. And I realized if I'm going into a Kaizen event or, any type of training situation or meeting, sometimes I don't go into enough detail because folks that are C's in particular like that detail and they want the information and the facts. And as an I, I'll kind of tend to maybe glaze over those things, but I really have to pause and think, okay, where are they coming from? What questions might they ask or what might they want to know that wouldn't really be important to me? It would be boring to me. I would just, I don't need to know all of those things. But for those individuals, they really need that. And so I really have to think about my audience and who I'm meeting with, who I'm talking with, and um, really maybe pause and slow down and bring more information than I would maybe typically think to prepare, just to help that conversation or help, move us forward. And that's, just truly my own experience with, all the individuals I work with.
Sure, sure. Have you ever seen it the opposite, where someone makes the decision to bring less data? Like, obviously, we want to make data-driven decisions, but sometimes I've worked with people that like almost present too much data, and it's like we get lost in, or at least me personally. Maybe there's other people in the room that are like, "Oh, this is amazing," but for me personally, I'm like, we had enough at this amount. What about that side of
Yeah.
things? Yeah,
Yeah, sure. There's definitely been some times where it's what do they say, like paralysis analysis or
yeah.
analysis
Analysis,
paralysis. I
yeah,
always I
or
always mix
paralysis
that
by
up.
analysis. You got it.
But yeah, yeah, too much data. And when we were so an example of this might be someone on our team, we were preparing some lunch and learn content. And, a lunch and learn, in my opinion, is kind of just, you're kind of giving an introduction to a topic. You only have, 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour. And so you're not going into all the details of a topic.
Hmm.
And my colleague, we met to go over our slides that we had prepared, and he just had this huge deck and all of these reference material, almost like it was writing a dissertation on this topic. I'm going, well, we need to pare this down. He's like, you're right. He's like, he said to me, I find this interesting because I like learning in this way, and I want to know all of this, but you're right, our audience will be lost by all of this. And
Mm,
so he really had to adjust what he was going to prepare and present as a presenter, and really keep it very high level, which is sometimes hard to rein it back, right? Especially if you're
right.
passionate about a topic.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that definitely has come through.
Yeah, I find that for myself a lot when people ask me like, "What do I do for a living?" Or even my wife has a hard time explaining to people, because we do, and I think probably most like engineers or like as a process engineer, I mean, it's hard like using like these high level words or that, I don't think they're high level, but other people do, and sometimes you got to change that up a little bit, and like talk in a different manner, or
Mhm.
I hate to use the word dumb it down because you're not necessarily dumbing it down, but just using the right words that are going to resonate with that person. Like you said, knowing your audience is important, right?
Yeah, and even, in the lean world, all the acronyms we use are not,
Mm,
meaningful sometimes to folks outside of the lean world. And so, yeah, trying to explain what we do without using some of the acronyms or the common industry, phrases, can be challenging sometimes.
yeah, it makes me think of a story. I was working with a team, and they specifically told me that they didn't want any lean words or terms or anything at all because they had some bad experiences in the
Mhm.
past with some different lean consultants that, anyways. So the word was that we were trying to use was tact. We were trying to teach tact time, and so we just changed it up and used customer demand rate. And again, just knowing your audience and using words that are going to resonate with them is, as a practitioner, as someone that's facilitating activities, I mean, that's an important piece. And that's where these personality assessments can really give you an edge in the work that you're doing, because you want to meet your audience where they are. And when if you don't do that, you could immediately be, closing doors and shutting people down. They're putting walls up, without you even knowing it. And so I think this is
Mhm.
it's a really valuable concept and a really great tool to use, especially for those of us that are working with teams and trying to teach or guide teams towards improvement.
Yeah, and I don't know if I said this earlier, but I'm certified in the Maxwell method of DISC. If you, Google DISC, there are probably, hundreds of different versions of DISC out there. Companies put their own kind of spin on it, but the Maxwell method of DISC that I'm trained in is based around John Maxwell, and his leadership principles. And one of the pieces of the report that I find very valuable when I'm reviewing it with someone is called the Power Disc page, and it's 7 leadership characteristics and the strengths in leadership. And it's really helpful to help someone see where their strengths are in leadership, maybe where they have areas that they could grow in, but also those strengths that they should be leaning into, that they bring to the table. And just that's really enlightening to me. That really helped me when I, first went and took my DISC assessment. And, then it can be deflating if you only focus on your weaknesses or your weak areas, and so it can be really powerful and uplifting to kind of say, no, look at all of these strengths that you have that you bring to the table. So I really like the Maxwell method because of that.
Love it. Love it. Well, like I said, Cindy, you're just scratching the surface here on the breakout that you're going to be presenting at the Lean Solutions Summit coming up September 15th through the 17th. We'll be in Grand Rapids at Meyer Frederick Gardens, which is it's actually just a beautiful venue. And it's a place where people come from all over the United States, even all over the world, to come and see the beautiful gardens at Meyer Gardens here in West Michigan. And so we're going to be at that venue, and it's going to be September 15th through the 17th. As I said, you're going to be here with us, and you'll be presenting on this topic and diving a little bit deeper into those leadership behaviors that are necessary to get the right outcomes that you're looking for as a leader. So tell us, maybe just give us a little teaser, a little bit more about what you might be sharing at this year's Lean Solutions Summit.
Yeah, so I'm planning to talk a little bit about, the history of DISC, and we'll do a fun exercise and help, everyone kind of understand the four styles and their fears, how to help mitigate those fears, and how to really tap into the strengths. I really want to talk about that a lot at the focusing on strengths.
Yeah. And the theme for the summit this year is better together, people plus innovation. So obviously this is big on the people side of things, but also some of the activities and discussions will kind of show how innovation and people work together, and that'll just kind of continue to reinforce that theme that we're shooting for: better together, people plus innovation. Again, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, September 15th through the 17th, and there is a special code that Cindy has. It's Cindy 100. And Cindy 100, we'll drop that in the comments as well. But Cindy 100, if you use that code, go to www.leansolutionssummit.com and you can get on the registration page. But that will give you a special discount using Cindy's code there to get some special price. And the price is as cheap as it's going to get right now. So don't wait until you get closer. Register now, because the price is just going to keep going up as we get closer, obviously. Cindy, we're excited to have you here in West Michigan. You'll be back home in the Midwest. So
Yeah.
by September, let's see, it'll be fall, and it'll be getting a little chilly, a lot cooler than it is in North Carolina. You're gonna have to bring your winter coat.
I might need some
Maybe a
mittens. I don't
spring
know.
jacket. It won't be that cold. We won't have snow yet. It'll
Yeah,
probably be really beautiful. Actually, in the fall in
I bet.
Michigan is the best time. All the trees start to change. We actually have these fall color tours where you can drive up Lake Michigan and see the beautiful trees and all the different colors that are changing. So it's a great time to visit West Michigan, especially at Meyer Gardens, where kind of another little tidbit that I'll throw in. We have in Grand Rapids, they have the art fair that will be happening the week after, or the weekend. I think it starts the weekend after. So at Meyer Gardens, they're going to have a ton of amazing art that's already on showcased for the upcoming art fair. So again, lots of
Neat.
great reasons to visit. It's going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been to the gardens yet, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Perfect. Well, it looks like we have a few other people joining us. I see Milton from the UK. I see, let's see, Badradine from France too. So Paul from Chicago. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. We're actually going to wrap up at this time, and so if you're just joining us, go back and watch the replay because we talked about some pretty amazing things when it comes to leadership behaviors. And again, just scratching the surface. Cindy's going to be presenting at the Lean Solutions Summit coming up September 15th through the 17th. Use code Cindy100 and you'll get a special deal on the registration. Cindy, I'm looking forward to seeing you coming up in September. Appreciate you jumping on here and just chatting a little bit about what you're going to talk about in September.
Of course, yes. Thanks so much for having me, and I can't wait for the summit. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Take care, everybody.